Well, welcome to another episode of I Am Negan, a TWD Universe podcast. My name is Adam Vale. I am a senior editor over at the Koalition.com, and I'm joined by editor in chief of the Koalition, Richard Bailey Jr.
What's up, Adam? What's up, listeners and viewers?
And Throwdown show over on Twitch, Carlos Romero.
Yo, what's going on?
What's going on is this is it. We're winding down. So this is for The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, season 1, episode 5, Two Lovers, Deux Amours. I screwed it up. See, I screwed it up.
Come on.
Deux Amours. I can't speak French. It's a shame. And I practiced before we started recording. Epic fail on my part.
2 hours.
Yeah, for 2 hours. For 2 hours, I took a break. Went outside, took some deep breaths, came back. Still
busted out the Duolingo, the Rosetta Stone.
Exactly. I only speak English, some Spanish, Italian, and fluent in Ebonics, and that's it. So we are. It's just legit. Yo, we are late. I'm sorry about that. All kinds of craziness happened yesterday. We had a lot going on over at the site and other projects and things I'm trying to get done. So sorry about that, but we are back. We are covering this episode and we are thrilled, right? Aren't we all thrilled? No, I don't think everybody's thrilled, but I am. So before we go into it, you guys, if you haven't seen it, hopefully you have. If you're following this channel over on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, then you know what we do. So I'm pretty sure you guys have already seen this episode either on AMC Plus or on AMC Network. But get ready because I've been waiting for this and it finally happened. 3, 2, 1. We got runners. The runner walker. It took this was like a 52-minute episode. It happened in the last maybe 10 seconds of this episode. They unleash the infected. I guess they're juicing him up. You called it, Rich. You were like, "Oh, they're giving him steroids, right?" And sort of he's juiced up. He starts shaking, and it's like their own little Thunderdome type setup. I mean, I don't want to jump all over the place, but man, this was the highlight because, as you guys know, who listened to this channel for the X amount of years, I've been hyping this up because when they teased it with World Beyond, I was like, oh, we're gonna get it. Maybe in Walking Dead proper. No, we didn't get it in the last season. All right, well, maybe they'll throw it in Fear. No, we didn't get it in Fear. All right, well, I guess something. And then when they said the France and Daryl Dixon, this is it. Well, every episode I'm looking for, it doesn't happen. Finally happened. I'm super thrilled. Before we go any further with other discussions, Rich, what did you think of the runner?
I think it was interesting to see the runner, but that runner will most likely be killed within the first few minutes of the next episode. So I'm not that excited. But yeah, we'll see where they go with this and if there will be other variations or mutations that we see in the future.
Oh, the sky's the limit. Think about it. The sky's the limit at this point. They could just go into a room and show a bunch of little vials on a wall and be like, all right, this one makes them jump super fast, it's super high. This one makes them climb walls like Spider-Man. I mean, they could do all kinds. This one makes it grow an extra head. You know, like we saw that other mutated one. Remember that was all combobulated with another one that was over in Dead City. I don't know. They could do whatever they want. Like I said, sky's the limit. All right, Carlos, what about you? What did you think about that?
About the overall episode or just the run?
No. Just for that. We're going to go and run down. But, man, this was the high point for me. And I'm sure for a lot of people, like, oh, well, he's always asking about this runner. And we finally got one. So what did you think? Was this a big impact for you like it was for me?
Well, I doubt it's going to be anywhere near towards your hype because you've been anticipating this for like 20 years. So, no, not as much as you. Although I will say it was the highlight of the episode because it coincided with that whole scene where it was a flashback, where it was the present, where the sentence, and they're singing the French national anthem, and then the anticipation of the runner, the runner in the boat, the runner in the cage match or whatever that thing is going to be called. And
The French Thunderdome. Ah,
the
oui,
French
oui.
Thunderdome. It was definitely a highlight. So I did really like that scene. I did really like that they're finally introducing, or hopefully we don't know. Rich could be right. Maybe it's just there for like 2 seconds next episode, and boom, he's
Oh,
dead, and that's
don't.
it.
Oh.
We got our quota of variants for a show, because we kind of thought we were going to get it in Dead City, and we got only a taste of it, and we only kind of got it in The Walking Dead proper. And then
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. And I get where you're coming from. Where Rich is going to end quick is because Daryl has that big battle axe. So once this thing runs at him, one nice swing and off with his head. Right. That's it. But I was super excited, but yeah, I don't know. I'm a little disappointed on how they revealed it, because I was hoping for something more. Like, yeah, I get it's the focal point. It's that setting, like we're talking about the Thunderdome battlegrounds, that type of thing. It's like you're in a cage, get ready. You got the cult people all cheering and chanting the national anthem. That I don't really understand, and we'll get into it when we start doing the full rundown of this. But I was just hoping that it would be more of a surprise for introducing the runners, that it would have been one of those things where Daryl's just in the street with Laurent, and they're like, all right, we can't go down this road, or we can go through, we can walk past them, they're slow, they're not gonna, and then just hear like footsteps, like, and look and just see all of them running out. That would have been awesome. 28 days later style. And who knows, we might get that. What if they have a bunch of a bunch of infected with this steroid that makes them run, and they're put in a room and then they're going to unleash them at some point? That would be great, but there's so many questions. So let's just dive right into this whole thing. One of our main concerns right off the bat from last episode was just the storytelling. How it just wasn't really meshing well, especially with Isabelle and all the stuff going on with her. And that carried over into this one, because they're not really going into the issues with her and Quinn. Because we get that she wanted to go back. She gives Daryl this whole speech. Oh, get Laurent to the nest. The guy in the boat knows the way. It's going to be great. I'm going to stay back. Why? For the story. Still, that doesn't make any sense. But then she does this, and she's with Quinn. Not once in this episode does he explain, hey, this is why I had an affair with your sister, and this is what was going on. No, I mean, hell, I don't even know if maybe she was the side girl. Maybe Isabelle was the one, and it was really the sister. I don't know. I doubt it because of the age thing, but still, that never gets brought up. It's just like, oh, are you going to take me back? Eventually you'll give in, and, you'll forgive me. He starts quoting some stuff. She was about to kill him at one point. Remember, she got a little piece of the wood that was on the door panel, and it looked like she was going to end him. But then he started quoting something from the Bible or whatever, saying about forgiveness. And it's like, oh, and then she stopped. Like, I need more time. I can't do this. I don't like this story. I don't like what they're doing with the Isabelle and with Quinn and all this. What about you, Carlos? Are you feeling this? Is it working for you? Does it make sense?
I didn't like it to begin with, just because I didn't really understand. They explained it, but the whole thing why Isabelle is actually going with Quinn instead of going with Daryl and Laurent to the place, because she's like, oh, well, he's got people everywhere, and in order for you to have safe passage, I need to be with him.
But that makes no sense, because there's no proof of that.
Well, there was only one proof where he said, right, oh, I see that they already got to this place or something like that. They're
yeah, and it's at the end, but he never, during the point, he didn't know that they were out on the waterfront. They were going to take a boat and do all that. He didn't know that.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem like it's like really like reliable. But yeah, I wasn't like I mentioned, I wasn't too big of a fan of that whole story point to begin with. So this wasn't really the best way to continue it. The whole thing, and we'll talk about the whole Laurent stuff, because that drove me up a wall in this episode, especially. But But yeah, not a big fan of the Quinn Isabelle dynamic.
All right, Rich, I know this was your favorite part of the episode. You love this story. It brings back memories of good novellas from Telemundo. How did you feel about it?
I don't care about the story at all. I don't care about Quinn. I don't care about Isabelle, and I don't care about Laurent because of decisions that they've made between the last episode and this episode. Because and the thing is that I have seen people talking about why did she go back to Quinn. A lot of people have been complaining about that across a lot of forums. You see, some people are saying the show is amazing, but they're asking that question and they're very confused about that. So obviously, we are not the only ones that have an issue with that.
It's as if they had presented the script, the writers, like, all right, here, let's read up to page 15. Oh, this is fantastic. You know what? Let's just start filming. Let's do this. And then when the producer was like, all right, the director was like, all right, let's go to page 16. This doesn't make sense. Oh man, what do we do? We'll just keep going with it. All right. Well, all right, here we go. Because it's like off the rails. Everything made sense until that part where Isabelle's like, all right, I gotta go to Quinn. Why? That made no, just go on the run, then have that whole thing where he's chasing, but he's got his own issues, and then with the other big boss that's in charge of that whole other group that sort of looks like another cult. Yeah, it just put like this weird full stop on the story for me once that happened, because it doesn't make any sense story-wise. And then speaking of, to your point, what you were getting at, Carlos, what also doesn't make sense is the whole thing with Laurent, and now how they're trying to say that, or portray that he has this whole attachment to Daryl now. You've only known him for a handful of days. And all of a sudden it's like, oh no, I always get left behind. And it's like that scene with the boat and him cutting the boat. Are you kidding me? Why? It's like the show is trying to figure out ways to prolong the story, and they're throwing all these odd tropes that don't need to be part of the story. That made no sense that this kid would do that, because if he believes that he is, well, it looks like he's buying into the whole thing of the powers. Remember, with talking to the lady, calming her, and all that stuff a few episodes back. How everybody is seeing him and sacrificing. We even had that the boat driver over here give this whole little speech to Daryl, and then he died. Some walkers, they caught him off guard, whatever. But we know that Laurent is aware of his importance to these people and that he needs to go to the nest. But yeah, he does this. He cuts this. It's like, what are you doing? Daryl gave this whole big speech screaming on this kid. You did this, and I'm sure some viewers were watching, was like, oh, he's too harsh. And then others are like, no, you get him, Daryl. You get him, because Daryl wants to go home. And no, this kid was like, everybody leaves me. This way you don't leave me. Well, what are you doing then? What are you going to wander in the woods? You have no supplies. You have nothing. It didn't make any sense. But what do you think, Rich? Did that make sense?
I just want to make a comment and say I think you hit it on the head when you said it feels like they are trying to prolong the storyline. For the same reason, they won't tell us what the hell is so special about Laurent. And here we are coming up on the season finale next week. Still no answers on that. So as a viewer, why should I care about this kid if you're not telling me why he's so special? They need to answer that question, and I'm not convinced they're going to answer the question next week. So probably won't get our answer until season 2.
No, but we did get some answers, right, Carlos? We did get some answers.
I remember we talked about at the beginning of the season saying, oh, how we don't want it to be like another Last of Us where the kid, he's the cure, and then the whole thing. Well, instead of that, we got he's special.
He's the chosen one. That's it. That's what they're saying. He's the one that's going to get us into the new France.
And he tells a lady that she's a good person, and then she tells the bad lady that she's scared. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's I kind of
And then he looks at the camera, breaks it their one, says to the viewer, "You're frustrated. You get it. The story isn't that good." It's like you're right. Yes, it was great. The location, the scenes, everything. I'm all in. But man,
Yeah.
go ahead. Keep going.
I mean, I just don't. Uh, I kind of we'll see how it ends with this season. I wouldn't be surprised, Rich, if they keep extending this sort of plot point to the next one, because we're already at the end of the season, the season one, and with his kid, I kind of just think I'm like, I kind of wish like he had powers or something. I don't know. He had so I hoped he had something instead of just being like, oh, like I can read your mood.
We'll find out. I'm assuming we'll find out. If it's something supernatural, they will have to show us. Hopefully by this episode, the final episode, just to keep people interested and want to come back for next season, which, as we all know, has already been confirmed. Right? What hasn't been confirmed is how many episodes the next season. I wonder, because we all figured and thought that maybe this was going to be 12 episode season. They broke it up in 2 parts, and they said, hey, guess what? You got renewed, because remember they announced that renewal before even the first episode aired. And I'm like, oh, it got renewed. And usually it's like a little marketing scheme right there, just that way it plants the seed in people's heads. Well, I guess it must be good, right? I mean, they already renewed it. I'm sure people at AMC were like, oh, this is fantastic. Well, we need a second season. The fans are gonna love it. Well, no, I don't buy that part, but we'll see. But we did get some answers on this, even though they, just like Swiss cheese, had a bunch of holes in it that didn't really mesh. And it's that part with Daryl. We finally see that he is back in the States. We see he was on his bike, right? Continuing from the last episode of Walking Dead proper, where he took off. Well, no surprise, he ran out of gas. So he's just walking his bike. I don't know where he was thinking of going. Maybe he'll walk to the next gas station, whatever. But a car shows up. He gets ready to engage in combat. The guy's like, hey, you need gas? Don't worry. Are you good with the crossbow? Whatever, that type of thing. If you know how to use it, we could use your help. So we see that he got involved with a group that will supply fuel for a bunch of other people in his situation. It looked like there were people that live in that area that just need gas. Apparently, this group are hoarding all the gas. There's nowhere else to go. So they all work there now. So their job is to collect walkers, preferably fresh walkers. If you could bring them in good quality, good condition, whatever, then you can get some fuel. And this is what he needs for his bike. So he's like, all right. And he works with them. Here's where the first hole in the Swiss cheese pops up. He never asks what they need these walkers for. It never gets brought up. Even when he's talking with the other hunters for walkers, no one ever says anything. It was like, man, I wonder how many they need. Because as we saw, they go out. They all have their own little routine on how to collect them. And he had a really cool one with his crossbow and attach to a rope and tying them to a tree and then grab another one. Next, he like daisy chains all of them in. It was a great scene. But ask him why. Why do you need, and how many do you need? It never comes up. And that frustrates me, because at least then we would have some more insight on the reasoning and what's going on with France. Because now, I mean, we put 2 and 2 together toward the end, but still, this sort of doesn't make sense. So they need people to send them walkers for testing. Is that where you're going to jump in, Carlos?
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I wish they would have had like Daryl at one of the early scenes around the people be like, yo, so what's up with why do they want the walkers or something like that?
Yeah.
He's like, they're collecting them because they're doing experiments or something, something like that would have been nice. The only reason I deduced it, because when we were talking about it, I was like, oh, well, they're probably those are the things they're sending to France, is because the dude, it was the one guy that recruited Daryl, and then there was another guy that looked like he was kind of like the leader or something that of the group that was collecting them. He sounded French. I'm like, oh, here are the walkers that they're going to send over to France, and they're probably running tests, because we knew from previous episodes that they were testing. They're testing walkers.
Did they run out of zombies over in France that they had to import like that?
Maybe it's the we're talking about variants and stuff. Maybe there's different types of variants in different areas of the world, and So maybe that's how I
Yeah,
compartmentalize.
I mean, hopefully they fill in the blanks and we don't have to, because this should have been addressed in this episode. This made perfect sense because this is it. We now know how he got involved with this group, and it's because he needed gas for his bike, and he's a man of few words, and literally doesn't care how he gets the gas. All right, we need all these walkers. All right, I'll be back. And then that's it. No questions or nothing. They tried to tie in that whole thing with the kid, a younger guy there. It's like, hey, this is a picture of my girl. Oh, that's your girl. Oh, I'm gonna call her. Like, no one got phones now. Stop it. That's an old line that doesn't apply in this world. But it was just funny that be like, oh, I can't go back to my girl empty-handed. Maybe we could work together and I can help out. It's like, do I look like I need your help? It's like, it was weird. We all knew. Rich, I think he even said it he's gonna die, and he did. He died, and I didn't care. Go ahead, Rich.
I didn't care either. Let me say this. I agree with a lot of what both you and Carlos said, but I just want to say, in my opinion, this particular storyline, this backstory, this should have been a separate episode, because they kept jumping back and forth between what happened prior to what's happening in the present. And the thing is that when you connect both of the two, there was no real connection when you think about it. Now, when they showed at the end of the episode, when Daryl came face to face with the running walker, it would have been good if that was actually the guy that was with him, because then I could see, okay, that's the connection, because we know that the guy got thrown into the same cell with him, and then when Daryl got free, he freed the guy too. That would have made more sense, but I didn't understand why they had to put these two episodes together when it was nothing important or vital in the past to lead to the present. So I didn't understand why it had to be all put in one episode. This could have been a separate episode to start out the season.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And some of this didn't even make any sense. So they mentioned one of the guys running this operation during the flashback scene. Hey, no fighting, drugs, whatever it was. There was a bunch of rules, but the main one was no fighting and causing problems, pretty much. So when we find that guy that you're talking about with the trucker cap and the beard, he brings his group, and he has that kid part of the group. Daryl freaks out because he sees that there's rope burns around his neck, and he's like, they killed him, and he punches a guy. So the whole rule is like, hey, no fighting or you get kicked out. You're out of this program. That type of deal. But he's pointing out that this kid was murdered, and it's not like, oh, I don't know, I just have a hunch. No, he's pointing to the neck. Hey, look, he's got rope burns. They did this to build up their counts, because the kid was dying to catch some walkers to get some help, and those guys said they'll take him under his wing, and sure enough, this is what he did. So it was a mess. But then what I didn't understand is they grabbed that one guy and said, "You're out of here." So I'm like, oh, they kicked out trucker guy, but then we see that they tied up Daryl. They handcuffed him, and it's like they put him in. Remember, they put him in the cage, and he's on the boat. Why? That made no sense, especially when it looked like he was your best earner in regards to getting walkers. That didn't connect with me. It made no sense. If anything, he just helped you guys because you had this murdering guy. Who knows if he would have killed others, right? Just to build his numbers up. All right. Even if you just take that part out of it, why are you even handcuffing him and putting him on a boat? Just kick him out of the group, just like the other dude. You can kick both of them out. It's like, hey, you know what? Both of you guys, you're fighting, your problems, both of them, you're gone. They never answered that. They never answered why they were going to do that to him. And that upset me. And then it's as if they forgot that they kicked the other guy out, because like you just mentioned, they were then put together in a cell on that ship. And I was like, is that the same dude? And there was other people there too. Remember, there was like a bunch of them in the background. But yeah, that dude is there. And I'm like, oh, great. Now they're going to fight it out. Something's going to happen. But then I'm like, wait a minute. They kicked him out. Why did they decide to bring him? And the last point, and then you guys can chime in on all of this. When he's on the boat, when Daryl's on the boat in that cage, and there was one guy who was already beat up or sick or whatever it was, they took him out, and you see that there's a pit within the area of the boat. And like a cannery type of thing, like if you watch The Deadliest Catch, where they would put all the fish, the dump. It's the same type of thing, but it's all the walkers that they've been gathering. They put them in, and they take them and they just dump them in there. And it's like, all right, whatever. Is this to feed them? I mean, you don't need to feed them. They're walkers. They're not really eating. It's all messed up in the head. I don't know. That really bothered me. But yeah, that whole part. Go ahead.
That part, I didn't have that big of an issue because it's like, oh, what's the point of going to America and bringing back walkers? It's like, oh, well, they want to test on them. Like, okay, well, we bring a bunch of walkers, and then we're bringing criminals, which we're turning into walkers, and then they get more walkers out of throwing them into the pits.
So that's as if they're trying to say, like, well, if some die walkers, at least we have some fresh guys that we could dump in there and turn into more walkers.
Yeah. But the whole thing with I want to go back to something Rich mentioned. I do agree with this would have been better if they made this the flashbacks if they made them throughout the whole season, or at least one episode's worth of most of the flashback.
Are you saying like Arrow, like an Arrow, and how they did that? They sprinkled in little flashbacks of when he was on the island.
Well, something that would have worked better if they dedicated a whole episode in episode 2 or episode 3 where they showed Daryl how he went into that group missing fuel, how he got to know some of the people. That would have been better because it would have made us feel for the kid, because the kid, he was just a vehicle for Daryl to get into the boat, but you don't feel like they wanted you to feel for the kid, or they wanted you to feel for Daryl for feeling for the kid, but we never got that because we knew the kid for like 2 seconds. And I just wish they kind of fleshed that out a little bit more. If it had to be throughout the season to do like a couple of flashbacks here, a couple of flashbacks there, that would have worked. But the way they did it, I'm not a big fan. I wasn't a big fan of how they did it. I was a fan of how they did the ending of that, when he's escaping, when all hell breaks loose.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. But before we get to the rest of the boat, there's one last part that we have to discuss. It's the key part that took place back at his flashback. We found out that he was in Maine. Why he was in Maine, I don't know, but he was there, and they had a working radio, and he was able to connect to the Commonwealth, and this frustrates me also, because like, well, how are you calling? How is this working? Is there a number there? Are you still using a walkie-talkie? It makes no sense. But anyway, the only reason why I'm diving too much into, because we do know Commonwealth did have a radio, because remember that was the whole thing with Gene and how he met his girlfriend and all that. But he gets Carol on the phone. Out of all the people there, and Carol, she's like, "Oh yeah, everything is great here. You don't need to come back though, because," and then it breaks up. Is back. That's what we hear at the end. Is back. It's like, all right, so we know that was planted for a reason. One, it's Carol's voice, so everybody can be like, "Oh man, it's gonna be Carol," but then she's clearly saying everything is cool in the Commonwealth, and that so and so's back. I'm assuming that this person is back is not Rick. I think that's the first thing she would have led off with if that was the case. I think it's Negan. I think that Negan comes back, and I think that's where that goes, and they tie something in there. But then again, that's also implying that we are going to see more of the Commonwealth, and we may, but in flashbacks, I don't think we're ever going to see the Commonwealth as a whole, because The Walking Dead, the series Mothership, is over. I you know what I mean? I don't think we're going to see that whole crew back. So what do you think that meant with Carol saying blank blank is back? Rich?
Yeah, I mean, I think basically just something to keep you interested to see what happens in season 2. Obviously, they won't answer that question next week. That's something for next season. But I don't know who it is. We still need to see Rick's and Michonne's storyline first, which I'm pretty sure we'll probably get that before we get season 2 of this show. But I don't know who it is. If it is Negan, yeah, they have to explain some of that stuff. But I don't know who it is.
Carlos?
Yeah, I I don't know. I don't know who it can be. I doubt it's Rick, or maybe I shouldn't doubt it's Rick because they do need to tie in that show that they're doing. Um, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Negan. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Maggie. Uh, I don't know who else could it be. Is there anybody else? There's a
I mean, it could be playing. They could throw in all kinds of randos that they came across. It could be somebody
the
that's not
governor.
even the governor. He's back. He didn't really die. You know, Andrew is back. I don't know.
Or what's his name? Morgan. Morgan's back. He's like,
Oh, perfect.
don't
Oh,
forget.
that's it. That's it. There you go. You did it, Carlos. You did it. You did it. That you answered it. That's it. Because remember, from Fear, Walking Dead, which is coming back for the last part of it of the final season, Morgan's tale has already ended. He's with Mo, and he said, all right, he gets on a walk. He says, we're on our way back. Now, the only caveat to all that is that he doesn't know about the Commonwealth. He doesn't know where that is, unless he put a sign, because he's going to Alexandria. But I think there's still people there, so maybe there's a redirect. But it makes perfect sense because then we don't have to see the person on camera. You know, it's one of those. If they say it's Rick or Negan, we're like, hey, how'd they get there? How'd they get back? What's going on? Because of all the craziness from their stories or what Rick is going through with Michonne and all that stuff. But if they say, hey, Morgan's back and he brought Mo and she's all grown up, oh, that's nice. You know what I mean? That's it. We don't need to see it because we've already seen his send off, and it's fine. It's cool. We know the happy ending. He made it to his destination, and that's it, right? What do you think? I don't know, Carl, Rich. Looks like you agree with that. You cool with that?
I have no idea, man. I mean, yeah, that sounds interesting. I guess. I thought that Morgan was done with the show entirely. We know he's done with Fear. I mean, I don't know.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. They don't need to show him on camera. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's not one of those where we would have to see, like, because Fear was infamous for this, for doing so much stuff off camera. Remember, they're like full battles. Oh, that was a crazy battle. So we lost so many soldiers. Blah, blah. Like, we didn't see any of this. Well, why didn't you film this? All budget cuts. Yeah, well, this is one of those situations. If they say that Morgan and Mo arrived there, well, we already know they did this, and we don't need to see them. But if Negan or Maggie or Michonne or Rick, we would want to see them because we want to see how they got there, how they get back.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So you know what? You're right. You're right, Carlos. I'm going with that. That's it. I'm putting it down. Go ahead. People leave in the chats. Who do you think Carol was referring to when she said is back? I'm going with Morgan and Mo. All right. So to continue on, Carlos, with that story of what's going on with the ship, the two work together, the trucker guy with the beard and Daryl, because clearly he says the trucker guy's trying to get the guard's attention. Something's wrong with him. Something's wrong with Daryl. He's not getting up. He's not moving. Whole thing. I was like, oh, maybe they shanked him or something, or something's going on, or maybe this is all a plot and they're working together. And sure enough, they are, because the dudes were about to throw him in with all the other walkers. He fights them off. And then all hell breaks loose on this shit. So it sounds like you were really into this. So go ahead, take it from here, Carlos. Hey, Carlos, you there? Oh, I think he's there. He's out there. Well, is he there? It says he's there. There he is. This is your part. You said you were hyped for this. The big battle on the ship.
Yeah, this is it. This is what we waited for. We waited for a running walker, and we waited for Daryl to look badass. So yeah, I like the way that they cut the scene together. I wouldn't have. This is the only part of the episode where I'm like, oh, this is good. This is good. I like the intensity. I like the build up. I like the way they cut it. Everything. It was really good.
He got violent. He definitely got violent. They showed some really crazy scenes of him just killing these dudes. And we've seen him fight before and kill non-walkers before. But something about this, I agree. It was a little more. There's a little more. The choreography with the whole system was a little better than what we're traditionally used to. The whole setup and how he was taking these dudes out. And it was really funny because right before they put him in the cell when he first arrived, one of the guards took his vest. And sure enough, he takes the vest back. And remember, there's a reason for that vest. The whole thing with oh man, I'm blanking on the daughter's name, Judith. And what she put on there. So yeah, there's a reason he wanted that back. But I found it funny. He was like, I need my vest back, before I dump you with all the other walkers, kill you. But yeah, a lot of action there. A lot of action on that one. But this goes right back before I want to keep going with this, but then there's other little parts, even though I feel like it's not even worth mentioning, but then it is the whole thing with how he ended up on that boat. Like when they do the present day, right? On the other, in the Thunderdome, I should say. But you know what? Yeah, this is too much. See, this is where it's throwing me off because I'm like you said, Rich, it's trying to tie them in, and they kept doing these jumps back and forth, and it's similar, but then it's not similar. But it just because all right, we'll just stick with the boat part, and then we'll jump into what happened with the present day. So they keep going the whole action on the boat. What caused the explosion? I couldn't pinpoint what caused the explosion on the boat. Because we see that he opens up all the gates. Was it somebody else that started the explosion?
I think it's just it's implied that all the chaos.
Yeah, that was it, right? Because there was nothing he particularly did. It's just similar to like the dude that hates him for killing his brother. Meanwhile, he didn't do it. He was just there. It was the other girl that did it, and it's the same thing. It's like, oh, they all hate this American, right? Over in France, they're trying to hunt him down because of what he did to the boat. But really, he didn't. He freed up a bunch of people. Somebody else blew up the boat. But you see him jump off the boat, and there you go. That's it for that flashback. But when we go to the present day of what currently is happening with the story, that whole thing that happened with Laurent cutting the rope, and then they're back on the road and they get off the road, but he drops something, and that's just enough. With all the junk that's laying around, this triggers that vehicle to stop. They look around. Daryl wants to sneak up on one of the dudes, which is weird. I don't know. It's out of character for him to do something like that, especially when there's so many of them around. If it was at night, I could see it, but this seems like something he wouldn't have done. But whatever. A gets caught. The guys say, "Well, where's the kid?" I'm like, "What kid?" "All right, well, we're just gonna cut your eyes out." And he's like, "All right, whatever." And then Laurent comes out. Now, the issue I had here, besides that the kid dropped that item and that's what caused this vehicle to stop, is the whole thing going on with this kid and how they're putting all this together. Because it doesn't. If this is the big bad hates Daryl, right? Says, "Hey, you killed my brother." He's there. He's seeing this guy, Daryl, on his knees. Kill him. He even told the guys, the woman that was in charge, saying, "If I find him, I'm going to kill this dude. I don't care." She wants the kid. That's all she really cares about. Just kill him. But he doesn't. And that upset me. Because if anything, you could have just had regular soldiers capture them, find them, do the whole thing. And then it makes sense, because then when they get back to the base, then the big evil dude would be like, "I want to go kill him." And then the woman in charge could be like, no. I got other plans, and then that's where we get the Thunderdome scene. But no, and he doesn't do it. I don't know. It seems like he was so hell-bent on killing him that this was his opportunity, and he didn't do it. And that seems like a very Batman type 1960s trope of like, all right, we could kill you right now, but we're going to put you in this machine and walk away, or we're going to lock you in this room and go have a meal and then figure out what we're going to do. And no, this is it. If you want to kill the guy, you were trying to kill him. If in multiple episodes that we've seen already, you could have just did it right here. You had him, dead to rights. And they didn't do it. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Rich, is it just me? Am I looking too much into this, and I should just accept that it's for the story that they kept them alive?
It's just Rich.
Oh no. It's definitely for the storyline reasons. Because a lot of these characters could just get killed off, and they're not going to do that because they want to prolong the story. Maybe in season 2,
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not trying to say that he was going to die. There's no way. Obviously, it's the show's named after him. He's not going to. But why have that evil boss who's been hunting him down be the one to catch him there. It would have been better if it was just other soldiers and then they bring him back. And then he's like, oh, he's here. All right, what? You got the boy? The boy goes with the girl, the woman, because she wants him, right? That was her whole thing. But he wants Daryl, and he's going to torture him and do all this stuff. And then find out that, no, he can't even get his hands on him. She's got plans for him.
See, that was completely useless. Like when that guy met up with the other lady that's in charge, it feels as though he's taken a step back, because I thought he was going to be a lot more forthcoming and difficult to work with because he has a grudge with Daryl. But they told you, no, he's just going to follow her orders and that's it. So
it doesn't. His role has really diminished within the short time of this show, because he was introduced as like he was the commander of some other group, but then ever since he had that I guess his job interview right in the office and he accepted the job, he fell in line, and that's it. And next he's just out there trying to find Daryl, but really it was more about the boy. And that all gets figured out because, no surprise, while Quinn is trying to record with Isabelle, the girlfriend, she's caught wind to this, and then she spilled the beans about all of this. Which puts Quinn in a bad spot. We got that whole scene with Quinn and Isabelle, and now it looks like they're gonna get tortured, or at least Quinn is. Something's gonna happen to him. She has plans for him. But again, they never really flushed out his role either. What makes him so special? And yes, he said, because I find things. I'm resourceful. I know people. Well, there's not many groups still around. This is the end of days type of situation. So how could you be that valuable? It doesn't add up.
I agree 100%. They didn't really dive further into what he was doing. I will say, though, I am glad that there were consequences that he did not, because he was the one that brokered that deal with them in the first place. Said, I have the American, I can get you access to the American, and they found him on their own. So I am glad that there were consequences because he lied. So that was good, but everything else how it was handled could have been done a lot better.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even the fact with the girlfriend, and when she discovered, hey, you're in the room with Isabelle, whole thing. Never gets flushed out. At least then just end it with her and say something, and that'll show her running off and like, all right, I'm going to get you back for this or something. I don't know. It just there was a lot of little holes with all of this whole story thing going on with Quinn and Isabelle, and it just didn't do it for me. I just hopefully things get better. I don't know how they can get better on that end, but what did get better is that the end result, and we've now gone full circle, which is that Thunderdome. Now we know why this woman wants the boy Laurent, and it's because not that she believes that he's chosen one, but she can use him. That type of setup. It's like, hey, she gives a speech to. At first, I was like, oh, she's speaking in front of a big group of people. No, she's in some kind of building structure or whatever, because it looks like a Thunderdome. Eventually, when they do that wide shot, then you see there's a balcony area, and that's where all these people are singing the national anthem. So she has her own army, her own group of people, and she's trying to just give them encouragement. Hey, we're going to do this, right? We're going to bring back France and this and this and that. And she has the boy. And pretty much, I guess, to get those religious people on board with the plan. But if that's the case, then why aren't you out in the open? This should have been done in a cool scene underneath the Eiffel Tower or something, where everyone can see. If that's the case, because clearly she knew about this boy being regarded as the chosen one. But that didn't, I don't know. They have to really flush that out. Like you said, and we've said, they have to prove to us or explain why it's him and why people believe that it is his boy. But anyway, the main part and at least for me, the takeaway was seeing this scene with the running walker. They inject him with something. He just seems like he's just a regular walker. They inject him and he starts twitching and freaking out. And once they unchain him, he goes running for Daryl, who is just in the middle of this big dome area there with a battle axe. At least they gave him a weapon. And which tells me they've done this before. right? This is like some kind of entertainment or something. They'll grab somebody and give them a weapon and unleash some mutated variant of Walker and see what happens. And that's the same for us. We will have to wait and see what happens with all of this. So before we close out, Rich, what do you think of this episode? What's your rating for it?
Well, I think this was the weakest episode of the season so far. If I was to give this a score out of 10, I guess you could say, maybe I would give it a 3.5 or a 4.
Whoa.
Whoa. Yeah, because it's all the jumping around, the lack of explanation of certain stuff, and obviously some of these things are going to play out and get answered in the next episode, I would imagine, or obviously in season 2. But I just feel like they're taking their time telling certain parts of the story. And as a viewer, I'm not really interested because, again, when I see Laurent doing stupid stuff like he did with that boat in this episode, I want to know, why is this kid so special? Why should I feel any sympathy for him? We saw what happened to his mom. I understand that, but still, what is so special about this kid? And because they haven't answered that question, I care a lot less about him as a character. So they definitely need to do a lot more of this as we get into the second half of the season. I mean, say season 2, and of course the finale, because I'm not expecting them to answer any important questions next week, but we'll see what happens.
Carlos?
Thinking about a score, I would probably give it a 6, maybe a 5 or a 6 out of 10. The last part really did save it for me. Otherwise, I would have been more in the Rich camp. Because the beginning of the episode, parts of that flashback were just not well paced or well fleshed out for me to care as much as we should be caring about some of these characters. I don't know how it's going to end. Nobody thinks that Daryl is going to die. He's probably going to take out the Walker. Hopefully it's a good scene. I know Rich mentioned it'll probably be done in just a couple of seconds, but hopefully it's well done in those couple of seconds. And I don't know how the hell he's going to get out of it because he's surrounded by a bunch of people singing the French national anthem. So they're hyped. I don't know how the hell he's going to survive, especially with that dude that keeps telling him, you're going to die. You're going to die. All right, we get it. You hate him.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. By the way, I do want to mention, remember the little girl and the grandpa at the beginning of the season?
Yeah.
They killed the grandpa. Little girl, never saw her again. For some reason, I thought we were going to see her.
I thought she would be part of this group. We sort of saw her hanging around them. But we never got to see her again. I'm sure she'll play a major part later on in some way.
We'll see. But no, not my favorite episode, this one. I felt like the season has started off really strong. These last 2 episodes have been the weakest. And we only have the finale left to go. And hopefully it's a recuperation of, some of the good stuff that the beginning had.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a 7.5, and it's mainly for the sets. I enjoyed all these sets. I thought this was really cool to see all the stuff happening on the boat. The ship, I should say. I liked just all that whole setup. I like all the locations. It's great that they're over in France, actually on location for all this. And that was fine. The whole Walker mutation, I'm all for that. So I'm thrilled with that. The combat scenes, that was great. It's just the story. The story is really falling apart. And at first, when we first talked about this, the main issue was, how did Daryl get there? And I figured it was going to be some lame-ass story of how they did it. And it turns out, no, it's not as bad as the main story that they're pushing now with the kid and Isabelle and Quinn and stuff. And what I'm thinking or I should say what I thought was also going to happen is that besides Daryl being in there, that they were going to dump Quinn in there. And I was like, all right, now you two are going to have to fight. And who knows? Maybe that also happens. But remember, Isabelle is also there on that boat. And if anything, maybe she tries to figure out a way to get him out. Maybe she releases some other walkers and hits like an alarm or something, and it's like, hey, we got other issues, and that distracts everybody to go and do that, which gives him time to escape. I'm sure she's going to have some role to play in how he gets out of the situation, because she's there, and why else put her in this scene together unless she plays a major part? So that's it. But I agree, Rich. I don't know if we're going to see what's so special about this kid. I'm hoping something happens. I'm sure everybody that's watching hoping something's happening, because we know we're not going to see Daryl go back to the States. That is a guarantee. It's not happening. They're going to stay in France. So that's off the board. So it has to be something with this boy, right? That's that we get. All right, people. Well, again, thanks again for tuning in over on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. For I Am Negan, this is our podcast here talking about everything Walking Dead. So if you're into Walking Dead and this was your first time, then there you go. You just got a quick rundown of everything that we're doing with this. And I am hoping that episode 6 saves the season, because like you said, Carlos, it started off strong. We were loving these episodes, and it was just from last episode to this one, story has been going down pretty bad. So hopefully they can straighten things out. And I'm really curious. Maybe one day we'll find out. But remember, it was originally supposed to be Daryl and Carol, this show. How was that going to work? Was she just gonna? It was just gonna be a companion thing, and then they'd try to work together. I don't know. I'm just curious. I wish one day we would see at least some of the treatments for the early scripts of the approach they want to take with it. All right, everybody. Thanks again, and you can leave your comments over on YouTube if you have any thoughts and opinions about what's going on with this show, and are you still interested? That's my big question right now, because the story isn't holding up for me. But everything else is production, acting, everything is fine. But man, this story, I don't know. All right, everybody. So we will be back for the finale of this season episode 6 next week. All right. Peace.